Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Fat Guy with a Ponytail, where we're continuing to look at progress through bariatric surgery and the lifestyle changes that ensue afterward. So we're now at just about the 30 days post-surgery mark, and we've now started the normal diet where we're adding in regular foods slowly. We're still supposed to take 1 to 2 months, I think, of this where we're being very careful and getting used to things, and we're still at a half a cup to three-quarters of a cup of food per day, which I have to say, I know I went on about this a little bit earlier in the puree liquid stage. In solid foods, that's a very real thing, and the expectations that I had about the body basically um, jumping in and saying you're full, you're done. It's much more active in the solid foods, and even in the soft food stage, I was starting to notice it more, and it really is give you well. We'll talk more about some of that a little later on, but at this point, we'll go ahead and check in with the current weight, which we're down to 296. So we're burning roughly about a pound a day, little less, maybe 0.75, zero point 0.8, something. I didn't do the math, but it's ballpark, roughly there. We've had a couple stalls along the way, obviously, but that continues to happen, and I still haven't hit the gym the way that I plan to. That's still something I got to put um, on my plate of things that I really seriously need to do. Got the weights out and starting to do some minor weight training, but it's dumbbells, curls, things like that. But really, what I'm probably going to do is sign up for maybe a 5K or something where I'm mostly going to commit to walking. We'll see. Thinking maybe there's a turkey trot thing that happens. It's a little aggressive. Like I get all of October and November to get ready for that. I'd probably prefer something more like 90 days, starting cold. But zero pressure, and I need some reason to, other than for my own benefit, to sort of encourage myself to get in there. So into the gym, that is. At any rate, at 296, we've broken through 300. That's a big deal. I'm trying to remember when I was under 300. I looked over, interestingly enough, went to my parents' place Sunday and was looking for a particular set of photographs. One of them was with, well, it was relevant when Shazam released, and it was a picture of myself dressed in my own Shazam costume that I made, basically with magic marker on a T-shirt to turn it red, and I used up probably 3 magic markers, and it still looked like somebody grabbed a magic marker and colored all over it. But I was happy, and when you're 6 or 7, it's not that hard. We didn't have fancy ways to cosplay, so that was it. And my sister Heather was dressed as the Almighty Isis, since there was the Shazam Isis Power Hour back in the day. We're going back in the 70s and the like. At any rate, it was a good picture, and since my sister passed and Shazam was released, I always thought about that, and it was something that I wouldn't have minded to come across, but after digging through all the photos, it's gone forever. However, there were a number of pictures of me at various stages of weight, which really was interesting to look through how that looks. I mean, you're in your own body, so you know that you don't feel good about yourself, or maybe you do, or you don't when you are actually thinner. I bounced around anywhere from 165 back when I was in the Air Force in basic, to maybe, let's say, well, I mean, we know what our highest weight's 350, but always hovered around, I guess, in the 200s, and then just blew through it after all the craziness with second marriage exploding and house foreclosing or short sale. Just was just one bad thing after another. Really rough period. At any rate, looking over those photos to see, I don't know. It's not really to look how terrible I looked, but more about um, seeing the moments when I thought that I didn't look so bad. I actually did look kind of bad, and moments where I thought I looked bad, I didn't look so bad. So clearly a disconnect between what I see and what I am. And sometimes there's false confidence, right? You put on your brave face. You say, well, screw it. I'm going to wear my clothes. I'm going to do things, and I'm just going to be Joe. Which is nothing wrong with that. I think, body positive is good. And I know there's a whole movement of people, the no fat shaming. We talked a little bit about that. And I think that's a good thing if you can do it and you feel it and it's real. For me, I think there's a lot of bravado in that space. So it was interesting. More interesting than that was also to see how many members of my family had similar shmoo changes, but everybody's morphing. We see, my dad who goes from thin, little larger, then thinner again. My mom, same. My sister Heather, same. My sister Shannon, same. It's remarkable. And more interestingly enough was watching the changes. There were pictures of my Uncle Joe, who, yeah, he's the Godfather. He's the central Sicilian figure in at least the Davis clan with respect to, all of my relatives are amazing. The entire Puglisi side of things is really special and awesome. And I consider myself lucky to have them. But I've often been compared to Uncle Joe for reasons that aren't completely clear to me, and some that are. He's really, honestly, he does what he wants, and he does without fear. At any rate, looking at him and I had very honest conversations about being fat and not being fat. In fact, I want to say 2 years ago, we were supposed to do a ski trip up to Killington, Vermont. And that was my, okay, I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to focus. And as many times has happened in the past before, it just didn't happen. And it was sad because I really wanted to experience a skiing trip with my knees being what they were and the situation being what it was. It didn't happen. And, he understood. I think he was hoping to help encourage me to drop the weight as well as, motivate himself. But he had a great time anyway. And I learned that I need to really get more on it. And here we are. But my point with respect to Uncle Joe is seeing him go through the same body changes. There's pictures of him where he looks like, honestly, he looks like the guy in the commercial, the most interesting man in the world. There's a shot of him. He's cut. He's, all this other stuff and by the side of the pool. And then there's other where he looks, more dad body, middle-aged, adding a few extra pounds. And he's also disciplined once he gets his mind into it. He salads and cracking down, as I understand it. Last time I saw him, anyway, he was down the weight, and he keeps active and does a lot of stuff. But again, I think there's something to be said about weight and body weight chemistry. Now, whether it's nature versus nurture, that's probably an open discussion. But at least anecdotally, it was interesting to see how much of that is within the family, and that it is a big deal. Again, to those people thinking this is the easy way out, it's like you're looking at a history of quite honestly, in my opinion, it's similar to alcoholism, that you're doing something that's not good for you, and you can't help yourself because it's generation after generation. I mean, and I would know we've got generations of alcoholics on the Irish side. And each generation moves that ball a little further down the line where, okay, we start with a guy who routinely beats his kid, and the kid has to go fetch him out of the tavern, to standoffs in the living room with occasional beatings, to no beatings but a lot of aggressive behavior, and each generation takes that a little further, but it's something to overcome. Anyhow, so that was the visit to my mom's and seeing pictures and stuff like that. So while I was there in the Delaware area, we also had a chance, because we were, long story short, not so short, we took a trip up to New York for the vacation, and that's a whole separate story that we won't even go into. But short version is things happened after we got up there that forced us to turn back. Had to make a few emergency plumbing repairs, did those, and tried to salvage what we could of the vacation. So off to Delaware we went to see family. And my sister had a room in a hotel, and so we hung out there and shared that space, which she was gracious enough to offer up. And while we were there, went to the mall because I really got tired in the mall. The outlets. Went to the outlets in that area because I got tired of pulling up my pants over and over again because my belt I've notched and I've notched again. And at 50, 52 waist, it just was getting like, okay, this is ridiculous. I can't walk around like this. So we went, saw what we could see, and I'm like, I don't know if they're going to have clothes in my size. So we went to Tommy Bahama, I think that's the place, where it's nice kind of beachy apparel. And I honestly, didn't expect to find anything. They had some 3X, but Tanya tells me, basically, why don't you try the 2X? And I thought, wow, that's crazy. So I went ahead and I did, and and it's not a great thing to be a 2X. I do get it, but when you've been a 3X and thinking this is where I park my ass for the rest of my life, it's a lot to suddenly see that, oh my God, it's actually working. So I put on a 2X shirt, and I was stunned, and I could close all the buttons and I could wear it, and it fit well, and it was emotional. It was a surprise that I didn't expect to get. And we went off in search of a belt, and there was that was no victory until we got to the old Big and Tall place. If you larger folks out there shop at DXL, that's kind of been my go-to place where the clothes don't suck and I don't have to worry about what I weigh and what I wear. And sure enough, got into that place, found a belt that fit. But again, more surprises. And I'll start with the pants. So I went looking for a pair of pants, and I knew that basically I was wearing a pair of 50 jeans that also felt kind of loose. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll try 48, tentatively, scaredly. And I put the 48 on, and they fit. And I was shocked. And I suppose I shouldn't be at the same time. It makes these changes very real. And then something even more amazing happened where we couldn't find the one pair of cargo shorts that I really liked in the 48. And they were in a 46. And Tanya says, well, try them anyway. I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I don't want to, because when you're clothes shopping, if you're in a good moment, you don't want to ruin it by putting on something that says, you fat such and such, don't bother. Why do you eat it? Why didn't? So I went ahead, dressing room, put them on, and they fit. I'm wearing them now, and the belt was a 46-48. Now this is DXL, so I do live in the real world, and I think there's a certain sizing that they'll go with things that run larger in the sizes that are printed on there. But at the same time, it's a 46. So that started a whole thing when I got back. We got back to the house, and I was like, man, I wonder, I've got a couple pairs of pants, I want to say several years ago when I was living with somebody else, that I put these things in the closet, and I think we jokingly looked at those and said, yeah, those will live there because they'll never come out again. Because we never, that's what happens, right? Once you leave a size behind, you never go back for the most part, or you go shopping again. And I didn't like that. So even though many years ago, I want 6-7 years ago, when that happened, I held on to those pants and I took them everywhere. And I said, my goodness, I'm going to fit in these 46s. So they're a real 46, not a big and tall 46. And I tried on a few other things while I was there. So I tried on I tried on in my back wardrobe, my clothes that I thought I had left behind forever. Um, the 2XLs and even XLs, some dress shirts that I had had. And every single one of them started to fit. Some of them maybe not quite ready yet. So emboldened, I went with the 46s that I'd saved forever, and we're not quite there. I will fit into them, and what is it? I think the muffin top is the delicious saying that's out there to describe that kind of thing, and I think there's some of that. Um, I could wear them if I had to. It wouldn't be as comfortable, but we're very close, and that's surprising to me. And again, very moving. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. So it was all overall a pretty, yeah, weirdly, stupidly emotional weekend. Um, and hope, I guess. Hope that lives in the wardrobe for maybe, in a couple of weeks. Who knows? Who knows where we're going to be? This is a journey. It truly is. I mock that term, and I still do because I'm a cynic. But at the same time, I think it's not complete bullshit. Um, at any rate, so other things that I learned while traveling. Um, on this diet, bringing all that crap with you is a giant pain in the ass. Like, I've got to bring 4 protein shakes. If it's just a 1-day trip like we did for the gig, that was a bit. But I really need to keep those protein shakes because my protein's not up where it needs to be. And now, because we have the revised sort of I can only have a couple bites, and that's really kind of exactly where I'm at. As absurd as it is, I still can't get used to it. When we were out in Delaware, so I sat down, and we went to Krabby Dick's, great place to get some seafood and everything else if you're out there in the Rehoboth area. At any rate, said, okay, well, I can have shrimp, and I can have these deviled eggs. Deviled eggs with, lump crab meat on top. Sounds great. You get 4 halves of an egg, so 2 hard-boiled eggs total. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I bet you I'm only going to be able to eat some of these things, but I'm gonna try because I really want to. And sure enough, I had 2 halves, so an egg, and 1 shrimp, and maybe a little bit of a snow crab leg, and that was it. Done. Full. So it's disappointing and amazing and strange all at once, because in this situation, I clearly, if you look at me, you know that I love food, and it's some of it's we got the whole emotional baggage and everything else like that. Some of it you got ethnic. It's like Italians, we have no concept of what portion size is, but food tastes good, and food is art, and all the flavors that we can do with food is interesting to me. So these deviled eggs were particularly like, oh wow, we've got crab, we've got the mayonnaise and the mustard in the deviled egg. It's nicely seasoned. Their seasoning is not quite Old Bay, but not quite J.O. And all of these things, I will do this with most food. And it was over. That's it. I've now come to describe it as my relationship with food has gone from, a long-term intimate relationship to speed dating. And that's basically what I'm doing with food. Is I get my 5 minutes, and I'm not even I am savoring. There's a whole bit that they try to get us to believe in. What is it? I forget. In the moment, being in the moment with that food, it's whatever, awareness. You do it with your feelings and stuff like that too. So you're chewing, you're tasting, you're letting the flavors wash over you, all that other nonsense, and it's not complete nonsense. It's very true that you will need to do this. It also helps you not think on the since you have to chew 25 to 30 times. It's I'm bored. So you're going, oh yes, I taste this, I taste that. I think they got the trick from wine sommeliers. At any rate, we're doing that. It's 20 to 30 bites, living in that moment of food, and then it's over, and off we go. So that's still weird. And so getting that protein in, I may not get all the bites in that I need. So it's going to be a protein shake where I know that I'm going to be able to down that and get my 30 grams of protein in. I know that I'll be able to not only hydrate but get 10 grams of or 15 grams of protein in a protein water, which, by the way, most of those suck. The Protein 2.0 peach mango is not bad. It's not peach mango. I don't know what fruit it is or what planet that fruit's on, just like the harvest grape, but it's not as terrible. And their acai, blueberry, whatever, that's actually pretty decent. There's a mixed berry that is hideous. I've probably got 4 of those, and if anybody wants them, I'm happy to get rid of them because they're terrible. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but they're bad. But while we were up in New York for the brief 24 hours that we got up there, we also had to go emergency shopping because I left my neatly packed lunch of here's all my little protein beverages and stuff like that on the counter back home where it would do absolutely no good on the road. So we went to CVS. Another cool turning point sign of the times is that think about it, because keto is so much more in vogue. I mean, we had Atkins before keto, and so I guess it's been adopted more, and it hasn't been poo-pooed so hard that you go to many stores and you see there are protein drinks, and there's available protein for you. And I guess some of that's also with the myriad drugstores merging with nutrition centers like was it Rite Aid and GNC, I think, are one company. So there I was in the middle of New York, go to a drugstore, and yeah, I was able to get not my favorite shakes, but I was able to get Muscle Milk, which really it's not a good flavor. Muscle Milk, vanilla, and chocolate, they all taste the same. It's protein flavor. That's what that flavor is. And at any rate, I was able to find that. So I didn't have as many problems. Because we were traveling, though, I wasn't really on my game with respect to hydration. And I cannot stress enough. So we had the discussion last episode where we talked about how, getting to the ball game, need that hydration. Hydration plays another, I think, very important role that, we don't always openly discuss because we don't like to talk about bodily functions and stuff like that. But honestly, going to the bathroom, and we're not talking about peeing here, you need water to kind of make things happen, to move along. You miss out on the water, and I am telling you from personal experience, you're making a mistake. Don't do it. I made that mistake once. We had a crisis at work, and I had to leave. And we had another close crisis while I was in Delaware. I solved a different way. We won't go into it here, but let's just say that we did the obvious things that might have need to get done, and things happened not in a way that was really a lot of fun, but the crisis at work was, I honestly was one step away from having to go to the emergency room. It was a bad situation. So if anybody does this diet or anything like that, gotta hydrate. That 64 ounces is a bare minimum, and I would honestly hydrate more, because your body needs it, whether you think it does or not. It's doing other things. So making sure you get that, if for no other reason than not to pass out, not to have nausea, and not to have constipation out the, Anyway, key. Learned that. And another aspect of the soft foods, and now we're on to regular foods, is chew. And they say it a million times, 20, 30 times for each bite. And take your bites. Don't fill your spoon up like a madman. Regular old small-sized bites. When we had our little water crisis while we were up in New York, I wasn't paying attention. I ate a piece of a cookie, and I washed it down without thinking, because old habits, right? And the moment I did, it was like, crap. Okay, I think I'm okay. Nothing bad's happening. Yeah, give it 30 minutes. The bad things don't happen immediately, just so you know. The bad things, I think there's actually out there on the interwebs, there's like 2 kinds of dumping syndrome. There's like the immediate, and then there's the 2-3 hours later. And I'm not even sure if it's dumping syndrome. What I can tell you from my personal experience is it was bad. And that we got on the highway. We drove, if those folks knowing Long Island and I-95 and the trip down back to Maryland, that's Belt Parkway, Staten Island Expressway. We were on there for quite some time, and for 2 hours I felt like I was having a heart attack. That things were basically so solid, so crushing in my chest that I really was just like, man, I cannot handle this. But there's nowhere to pull over, and you don't really want to pull over. And traffic was backed up forever and ever and ever. So you just had to push through. But that was 2 hours of just, oh my God, I'm going to die. So, you know, don't lose focus. And they tell you that too. They also said that, you know, pick your moment and you're going to eat. You're not going to read the paper. You're not going to watch TV. You're going to focus on eating. Again, being in that moment, but also so you're focusing on what the heck you're doing. So you're chewing, you're not drinking, you're not getting distracted. You're doing what you're supposed to do, which is retraining your body on how to eat. And it's not as easy as you might think it is. It starts out easy, but then the old habits start to come back, and you really gotta, you know, discipline yourself not to go back to those, because you're gonna regret it. Trust me, you are absolutely gonna regret it. And similarly, I was so excited to start today. Regular food, woohoo! Gonna do regular food. So lunchtime, I was asked, "Where can you eat?" It's like going, I can eat anything that's like keto. So they said, "Oh, about Sullivan's Steakhouse." Yeah, I'm not supposed to have steak, and I made that choice not to have steak. So despite the fact that there was a delicious steak to be had that I would have gotten a chance to have, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get the Angus beef patty, and I'm gonna get that just plain, just cheese, meat, no bun. Ordered it that way. They put on a nice little wooden plank. It was kind of cute, and they gave like 3 sauces. It's like, well, I can't have the ketchup. There was some sort of, I think it was a tomato jelly kind of thing. I don't know what that was. Like, not going to eat that. But then there was a sauce that looked like it was, if you ever go to like one of those steakhouses where they have the bloomin' onion and stuff, it's like that kind of, I don't know if it's a sriracha mayo or some kind of spicy horseradish kind of mayo. I'm like, oh, that's probably okay. That I should be able to dip my bits of burger in that to moisten it a little bit. Not sure that was the best choice. I would say that we finished the meal, and I was like, wow, okay. And I'm pretty sure I was on top of the chewing, was not drinking at the same time. So I am going to probably blame the sauce, and I should probably call the steak place and ask them what they put in their sauce. At any rate, I puked. Not there at the table, not there at work, but I knew that things were going sideways fast. Gathered my stuff, tossed it into my bag, said bye, gotta go, ran home. I got almost home to the last part of the block, and I could feel it. It's getting worse, it's worse, it's worse. Force of will to try to not happen. The body's going to do what it's going to do. Then comes the sweat, then comes the saliva, and you're like, yeah, there's only one way this ends. Side of the road, bleh. And positives, small stomach, so it's over quickly, but no one that I know really likes doing that. So we learned something about, you know, ingredients, and don't take chances, especially if it's your first go. So live and learn. We'll take a step back. We'll go to tuna. We'll go with chicken. We'll go to making things at home where I can control the ingredients and things like that. Yeah. So that's the status so far. Our next goal for weight is we're shooting for 265, and I'm going for 265 because that was a weight that I was when I got to Tampa way back in 2000, and it was a weight that I also worked off to about 235 doing Atkins, and got people's attention at work, and folks when I saw me at the family reunion were like, oh my gosh. So we're going to go with those 2 milestones. It seems reasonable. It's like, okay, 265 and followed by 235, and after that, Wonderland. So with 265 on the horizon, we'll see how we do. In the meantime, I'll be measuring inches, and definitely not eating at Sullivan's Steakhouse, not because the food isn't delicious, but because I have no control over there, and I'll probably see if I can come up with better ways to do that. Until then, tune in next time, and we'll see you. Bye.